but him name David Stakey. David Stakey had an interview on some radio station in England, Newsnight. And he makes some serious allegation about the genesis of this riot here. And lo and behold, in called Jamaica name. Lo and behold, the man called Jamaica in the mix-up. Jamaica, where we do them so? What to do them so? I mean, you mean them have to call the name like the pricky. Yes, the man kept on the TV and call people name, call Jamaica name tonight. As a matter of fact, it all boils down to what him say is that white people in England is becoming black. Him say white people in England is becoming black. And the reason and the cause for the riot is that they have allowed, listen to this, I'm going to play him words for words, that's why I listen to the interview when we play. The reason for the riot is that England has allowed the black culture and the Jamaican patois to get where in England. And that is the cause why all this burning down and this unscrupulous and thievery over the past how much weeks we see happening in England. The man say is the black culture and the Jamaican patois that cause it. Well, what you think? Because we don't have struggle with it too. We don't have struggle with the Jamaican. We're not struggle with the Jamaican language, but we are struggle with our attitude and our behavior. So, big debate in England. Big debate in England about it. This is the cutting edge. We want to play this interview here with this man here because it's a very startling suggestion. I think that's startling really, but you know, it cut to the heart. It cut to the heart really for hear a man, a white man, after all our England do to black people. After all our do England to black people. You know, Miss Lou did have a poem which I say with colonization in reverse. Maybe, me don't know, because Miss Lou did see something, Miss Lou did say we go to England and carve out our own little niche in England for the levels, you understand? So I don't know if Miss Lou did see something that this man, you know, come after so much years of Miss Lou saying colonization in reverse, that him now come and say one of the reasons them for this uprising that we saw took place in England have a direct connection with the Jamaican language. I laugh, you know, but I don't find it funny. I don't find it funny at all. Is there some truth to what this man is saying, or is just outright racism? He might blame black culture. Black culture, he might blame black culture. Hip-hop music, he might talk about. Can I mention hip-hop music and maybe other things too. So, film recommendation, you know, and when white people sit down and say we're going on, you know, for them recommendation is probably a tightening of migrants and immigration like what Obama do right now. Right now, Obama is in the process of tightening the immigration laws. We see a big demonstration going on in America over this immigration law that Obama instituted inside America, where the deportation of people will be simpler and quicker. And in England, the police and the courts, this is serious, the courts were told to take more drastic steps and give the people them who them catch, it's 1,000 people them arrest already. The people who them catch and charge must throw away the law book. This is serious. Them tell the courts must throw away the law book and rivet the judgment upon whosoever is found guilty. In other words, if you were supposed to get 6 months, get 6 years. And you're going to see a whole heap of people that come back home. Whole heap of people. So, I don't know what I'm going to do with the white people who did a match down the building where we see it on the TV where enough white youth that throw a chair in a glass and not go in a store and take out things. You know the weirdest thing is that most of the store them, it appeared to me that most of the stores them where them mash up and go in is electronic stores. It's gadget stores. No, it's a serious thing, but I want to listen to this, listen to this because it is creating some serious ripples in England right now.
Well, joining me now, the historian David Stakey, the author of Chavs, Owen Jones, and the author and broadcaster Dreda, Say Mitchell. Thanks so very much to you all for coming in. Do you think this has been a profound cultural shift this week, David Stakey?
Not this week. And whether this week is a huge incident, I'm sorry, I'm a historian, will only know in the future. Only the outcome will determine. But I think what this week has shown is that profound changes have happened. The two things about these riots. The first is, in one sense, they're completely superficial. Somebody brilliantly put it there, it's shopping with violence. It's merely extended commercialism. I think, for me, the key image was the woman coolly trying on a pair of trainers outside a looted shop. So that's one aspect of it. The other, though, I think there has been a profound cultural change. I've just been rereading Enoch Powell, The Rivers of Blood speech. His prophecy was absolutely right in one sense. The Tiber didn't foam with blood, but flames lambent wrapped round Tottenham and wrapped round Clapham. But it wasn't intercommunal violence. This is where he was completely wrong. What's happened is that a substantial section of the chavs that you read about have become black. The whites have become black. A particular sort of violent, destructive, nihilistic gangster culture has become the fashion. And black and white, boy and girl, operate in this language together. This language which is wholly false, which is this Jamaican patois that's been intruded in England. And this is why so many of us have this sense of literally a foreign country.
In that speech, Enoch Powell talked about 15 or 20 years' time, the black man having the whip.
No, we have to play about that little part there. We have to play about that little part. I want you to hear what the man say. Jamaican people, want to hear what the man say? Want to hear what the man say? Alright, me could play it again. Me could hear what the man say because it's a serious thing.
White, boy and girl operate in this language together. This language which is wholly false, which is this Jamaican patois that's been intruded in England. And this is why so many of us have this sense of literally a foreign country.
In that speech, Enoch Powell talked about 15 or 20 years' time, the black man having the whip hand over the white man.
That's not true. What's happened is black culture. This is the enormously important thing. It's not skin color, it's cultural. Listen to David Lammy, an archetypical, successful black man. If you turned the screen off so you were listening to him on radio, you'd think he was white.
You know, David, absolutely not at all, really. You know, of all the theories we've heard this week, this whole notion that this is down to the way that some young people may choose to speak, that people, I suppose, people, David, like myself, who may be talking a particular way, that's why we've got...
Like them. You don't talk like them.
Them. It's a them. This is the problem. It's a them and us culture, we can't keep thinking of this as a them and us argument. We keep talking about different communities. You keep talking, David, about black culture. Black communities are not homogenous groups. So there are black cultures, yet lots of different black cultures. What we need to be doing is we need to be thinking about ourselves as not individual communities, as one community. We need to stop talking about them and us. We need to be talking about our children. We need to be using words like we, and stop putting this blame on different people. The blame culture has got to stop. We've got to face head on
Just
what
to
the issues
understand,
are.
when you're saying that white culture has adopted black culture, are you saying that has been at the heart of the rioting? Is it black culture that has caused rioting?
Remember, what we're dealing with, listen to these boys. Listen to...
I think you should answer the question, David.
Is that what you think? That black culture is the cause of rioting?
This is the text sent by the girl who had been the Olympic ambassador, who then engages in shocking acts of looting. Pigs shouldn't have killed that guy last night in it. Then they wouldn't get blown up. Girls going to steal, wheeze. But is stealing Dewey? The shopkeeper ain't fucked their mugs.
No, sorry, excuse me. Utterly outrageous, obviously, what you're saying. What you're doing is you're equating black culture with criminality.
No,
you are. Let me finish. No, and you said, let me finish. You said David Lammy, when you heard him, sounded white, and what you meant by that was that white people equals being respectable, and that white people, by adopting black cultural norms. Look, black culture in this country has had a huge contribution. Our music and a whole range of cultural ways.
You glorify rap?
David, I use rap in schools to teach children literary devices, and it is a fantastic way
It's very good for rhythm and the literary.
Do you equate rap with rioting on the streets? Is that what you
Well, it
think?
certainly glorifies it.
Actually, if you look at rap actually, if you look at their videos, actually, it reinforces the materialistic world that we live in. When was the last time you watched a rap video or looked at a rap song? Tell me about a rap artist, David.
How much do you actually know about it? I'm genuinely curious to know about this, because you know, you're a historian, you deal with empirical evidence, you base your theories on evidence. So explain what your evidence is before you make, frankly, what a lot of viewers will find offensive generalisations.
I think in these are times when we need plain speaking, and plain speaking is necessary. You remember I took...
David.
I'm going to give you them. If you will stop interrupting, you're getting a sort of doing a trainee Jeremy Paxman. I took part in James' Dream School. I was involved in this. We used rap. We used rap to explore particular notions of masculinity, of violence, of dominance, of the relationship between old aristocratic violent practice and modern gang culture. So, I mean, it's very interesting. It is historically interesting.
So when we look at the facts, just bringing this back to the rioting, when we look at the facts, clearly it was not a riot that was only dominated by black people. It was there were many white people. We've seen the training that goes
Careful.
Are you saying those?
It started as a black protest about the killing of a black man. And so, can we just have that fact absolutely
A peaceful protest originated.
Actually, a community protest.
It very quickly ceased to be
We've got to understand, in Tottenham in particular, okay, where, look, in this country, black people are 30 times more likely to be stopped and searched. In Tottenham, 1 in 2 people... Let me finish.
80% of gun crime is black.
1 in 2 people, 1 in 2 kids in Tottenham grow up in poverty.
I know.
And there's a sense of harassment by the police. And this is just the latest, let's not forget, in an example of a civilian killed in very dubious circumstances. And what the IPCC originally came up with, that they fired...
I'll tell you,
I want to move this on slightly, because David Cameron, interestingly enough, said this wasn't about race at all. He thinks it's about crime. No, he said crime, actually. Let's look at the damage to the social fabric in terms of what this says. You talked about shopping, you know, the sort of shopping violence.
Shopping with violence, yeah.
Do you think, Drida, that this is part of an acquisitive culture, that sort of endless consumerism? You know, it wasn't mindless rioting, it was rioting with a very clear commercial
and actually, we are the society, we've tripped ourselves up, because what have we emphasised to our children in terms of success? Success equals money. The type of shops they were losing, it was all about materialism. And you know, if you think about it, we've had a recession. One of the issues of our recession is about the way that banks behave. We let our banks off, basically. I don't remember banks. I don't remember banks.
The analogy you made, feral bankers, feral looters.
But interestingly enough, despite all this stuff on politicians, on the press, on bankers, no public buildings were attacked. Now, if you get a real political outbreak, public buildings are attacked. Can we just move on?
So that kind of protest is okay?
No, it's not okay. I mean, I don't actually think I don't think there is a human right to riot. But can we just
right to protest?
No, there's a right to protest. Yeah. But can we just sort of try and turn this round? I am not attacking these groups.
What do you mean by these groups? What do you mean by these groups?
No, please. Why you correctly say these people feel excluded, they're poor, they can't get jobs, they're searched by the police. Now, why is it that these groups, particularly in these areas, you were saying
I'll give you an example. Can we just look at the actual... Look,
can we just look at...
I'll give you an example. I was on my way to this building.
No, listen, okay, I'm going to stop this here, because you are using black and white culture interchangeably as good and bad. And I want to know how much damage you think this has done to the fabric of society.
I think it's done very considerable amount. But what I would like to see is a recognition that what is the way out for these boys and girls? The way out...
And you think that's by dropping black culture?
No, I think it's a particular form. I think it... Why is it so important to do so? Because this type of blackmail culture militates against education.
This is nothing to do with that.
Owen Jones, there will be people watching who think that black culture is synonymous with gang culture.
Absolutely. And that is something which we need to obviously fight against. Look, there's an angry backlash going on at the moment, and understandably so. People felt terrorised in their own communities. I felt that, and my friends felt that. And there's a dangerous climate at the moment, I think, where to even begin to understand the underlying social and economic causes is seen as justifying mindless thuggery. And it's not to do that. But we have to accept there is a problem in this country in the sense that, for example, 1 in 5 young people are now out of work. If we're looking actually at black men in this country, young black men, it's half of all young black men. Now, if you just have a tiny proportion of people who feel they have no future, that they have no legitimate future ahead of them, just a tiny proportion take to the streets in the way that happened this week in the most tragic of ways, then that is enough to cause chaos on the streets. And unless we solve that, this will happen again and again.
Thank you all very much indeed. We've run out of time, but thanks very much for coming in.
England is a bit. Yes, you hear it. Black culture and the Jamaican patois is disturbing white England. That's serious thing. No, it's weird because if we look on what England has done for other cultures, the destruction of the black civilization can be put at the feet of England for how much years. The destruction of people's culture can be placed in the hands and the palms of England. England has systematically destroyed people culture. From Australia, you know, say in the 60s, them decide that the Aboriginal people was really human beings in the 60s, you know. Them totally destroy cultures. Them come inside of the Caribbean and destroy the culture. Them go to Africa and destroy the culture of the people. And them build up a lot of them wealth after the exploitation, the sweat and blood of other people. And this mania have the audacity to say the little riot we go on in England is stemming from the rise of black culture, associating black culture which has many different partitions to it. Him associating black culture with destruction of property and looting.
Working abundant.
You know, so them say the pot always cause the kettle, cause potter cause kettle say black.
England is a bit.
You know, so them say if you throw a stone in a hog pen, the one we ball out of him get licked. England. And I know say there's many more white people in England who think like this man here. England, white people thinking is that black culture is seeping too much in the mainstream. And black culture come with violence. Well, if black culture come with violence, maybe we did learn it from them who came to other people's culture with violence and destroy other people's culture with violence. England, you have no authority. You have no moral authority, ethical authority, or even legal authority to tell anyone and any group of people that their culture is destructive. Because one of the main destroyers of culture is the British Empire. One of the main destroyers of culture in the world is the British Empire. The thievery that has been perpetuated over the years by England, by these pirates. Henry Morgan, who was declared Sir Henry Morgan by the Empire of England, after going on the seas, robbing, raping, kidnapping and stealing, and then became governor of Jamaica, only to make Port Royal one of the wickedest places on earth. And this wickedest place on earth got its name, wickedest place on earth, because of the cruelty and the thievery that was perpetuated by Her Majesty's and His Majesty's subjects. Henry Morgan, all of these guys who we learn about in school, who was robbing, raping, kidnapping and stealing, only now in this 21st century to come here say black culture is the cause of what took place in England. And it's not only what took place in England, but it has been allowed, black culture has been allowed to take over white people. That's now white people is becoming black. Oh my gosh, man. You know, black people are trying to turn white. A long time black people are trying to turn white in the Rasta. And now here's the white people are turned black. My gosh, man. You say the world is spinning around. You say the world is upside down. Can you believe that Jamaican language is part of the problem in England? The man is telling me that Jamaican language is part. Oh, me can't hear England when the man attack. The man attack them till they forget at the radio. Jamaican language is a problem for everyone. All Jamaican. And it has nothing to do with the violence of the language. It has something to do with the attitude of the people who were taught and were domiciled on these farmer slave plantation island, wanting to look better and moving into the empire, only to be pushed aside after you colonized us and say you gave us freedom. You left us there to fend for ourselves on the side of the road with no land, no family, no money, nothing. you did was to give us a Bible in our hand and told us to shut our eyes and pray. And you also went to Africa with your guns and your bayonets and your Bible. And you gave the Africans the Bible and told them to close their eyes and pray. And when they opened their eyes, you had their land and they had the Bible. And up to this day, black people is still seeped into the Bible without land, without economical power, without any structure of spirituality. We continue in the robbery and thievery of the empire, that is the British Empire. How dare you to come now in the 21st century and declare that we who have no power to decide your outcome of your capitalistic marketing strategy that has gripped the world. How dare you to come now to tell us that it is our language and our culture that is causing your society to go down the drain. Your society has been down the drain for thousands of years. From the first time one of you went into Africa, your society started to go down the drain. So, it's a serious thing. It's a serious thing.
England is a bit.
Yeah, may I say, the audacity of the British to come tell people, say, is them culture and them language. Cause shouldn't even think of coming to a television program to come talk about other people culture is causing the corruption. When for them culture, not even for them culture, for them way of life, they destroy so many people all over the world. Audacity is a piece of feistiness, outer hardness. Piece of outer hardness to come say that. And you're not going to hear the last side, you know, because I don't think that black people are going to take it lightly when white people talk them way there. There's so much different things that go on. Especially when they say the Jamaican language. If you ever say Jamaican language, you say Jamaican patois. The Jamaican patois is part of the problem. English is not even a language in itself. Miss Lou, they don't tell you that already, you know. When them tell you, say, Jamaican patois is broken English, then nobody don't tell the people them say the English language is broken Anglo-Saxon, broken Latin, broken Normandy, broken all kind of European language. It's not a true language. Yet you don't get forced to learn it. And we're thinking, that's why we can't even go further neither. Because we are thinking of the language of the European, especially England, so much. And it's not even a true language in the true sense of it. So when they come tell you about now, Jamaican language is part of the problem. English is part of the problem for we, because we can't talk it good. I mean, I hear say, boy, right now, you're supposed to speak it good, you're supposed to speak it properly, you have to pass your exam and get a good job and do this and do that, and madness. Madness. I go to England and I hear some white people talk, I mean, I'm not sorry them, I say them call them talk something named Cockney. And nobody now tell them to get rid of them Cockney. I might. Say, please. Cockney. And you have to translate the Cockney. And a white people, hardcore white people talk so, and they can't talk English properly. Nobody in England talk like Queen Elizabeth on the road. Yet still we, the colonized, is forced in schools and other places to speak like Queen Elizabeth, when the English themselves can't speak like she. And then they come tell me, say, our language is a bastardization of for them things. When for them language is bastardized of other European languages. There's so much different languages that combine to make the English language. It's unbelievable if you start studying the etymological origin of some of these words that English people have. We are telling us they are English. With them cup of tea and bobbies and bicycles, please. What the hell do you say thing for, sir? Them talk like hot potato in their mouth, man. Them feisty out there. But Jamaican language are great. Them should have embrace it. Because if we never have that, maybe we would have just, hey, you see, anytime you hear white people are ball out, say white people are done black. It's a serious thing. Because long black people are trying to turn white. Who go through a sort of process for trying to turn white, And now it is a reversal. Miss Lou said long time. Colonization in reverse. No, colonization in reverse don't mean say the culture is the meaning the other culture. Because I don't have no black people who go to England and try to make the English culture look like it don't have no place. I don't have that. That's why when I talk about reverse racism, black people in England can't be racist because we can't decide the culture, the economical base, the power that white people have in England. And until we can do that, we have to just go and stuck and say, boy, right now, we're just jealous. We want a piece of this something. I want to take you from where we come from, I want to take you from Africa. Carry come here, so. And then now we feel, say, boy, over there so go better, and we want to go over there, so. Go catch up beside, each up beside, and talk like I might, and drink tea when sun hot. And now come go on like, say, this and that. It's going to be dreadless.